You may have been laughing at me and Jordan going through the obstacle course with the drunk busting goggles, but it proves why you should never drive under the influence, and always remember to have a designated driver. Now, here with more information about impaired driving is Greg Fredrickson. Hello, thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Now, Greg, you are with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. What is that?
Yes, it's an administration within the U.S. Department of Transportation, with our primary focus being highway safety programs such as impaired driving, that we work with states to provide grants to impact this type of driving behavior.
Okay. Now, when you say impaired driving, you're not only talking about alcohol.
No, nationally we're seeing an increase in drugged impaired driving, so either illegal or prescription drugs. We're seeing a lot of that in these crashes that are occurring.
Okay, that's really scary. And I know off camera I was telling you a little story that my family, my husband and kids, were actually hit by someone impaired. At first, my husband thought it was someone who was under the influence of alcohol, but it turns out he just seemed disoriented. So you have been seeing an increase in that kind of impairment.
Yeah, and I think we're collecting better data. A lot of us know that alcohol impairs our driving ability, our perception, and our judgment, motor skills and memory and stuff like that. Those skills that are critical for safe driving behavior. But as we see an increase in drugged impaired driving, this impacts your ability to drive safely and leads to crashes like what you experienced, your family experienced. Now,
why do you think it's important now for our viewers to know about impaired driving?
The things that we're talking about today are more than just numbers. Deaths that are caused by impaired driving are preventable. Each one of them are preventable. Too many lives are tragically lost as a result. And it was based on a person's decision to drink and drive or take illegal or prescription drugs and drive. And tragically, they get in crashes and they cut innocent people's lives short as a result. So that uptick that we're seeing, we're trying to raise awareness. How do we get to people to, if you've been drinking, don't drink and drive. If you've taken drugs, be cognizant of that and choose an alternate way to get to where you need to be.
Now, when you say drugs, people may be thinking illegal drugs, but we're not only talking about illegal drugs. You talked about prescription drugs. So often, if you look at the bottles that were given from our doctors, it said, do not drive.
Yeah,
you know,
operate heavy.
Yes, I forget exactly what it says, but it says do not drive, may cause dizziness.
Yeah.
So people are ignoring that.
Yeah, there's some perception out there that because the doctor prescribed it, it's safe. And if it does impair you, then you're not safe to drive. You're not safe to be behind the wheel. So I think that's something that we need to get the word out as well. And when we talk about impaired driving, we do talk about alcohol impaired and drug impaired, and that is both illegal drug use and prescription drug use that may impair you.
Now, do you have any numbers how this affects Hawaii?
Yeah, in 2013, there were a total of 102 people lost to highway safety tragedies in crashes. Of those 102 crashes, 51% were impaired, and 34% of those had drugs in their system. So last year, police statewide arrested over 6,700 drivers for DUI. So that tells us that there's an issue, there's a problem out there. Law enforcement are doing a tremendous job interdicting that problem, but they can only do so much. Sometimes it's very hard to detect impaired driving. The subtle cues that well-trained officers look for in making that type of contact and arrest. Sometimes they're very hard to detect, and so I think they're doing a tremendous job, but they can only do so much. I think it's up to us as everyday drivers that if we've been drinking, we shouldn't drive. We should find alternate ways home. If we do take prescription drugs that could impact us, we should find another way to get home or to work.
It's so upsetting hearing you say those numbers. They're staggering, and like you said, it's all preventable. You know, people just have to make good choices.
Yeah,
right, Greg?
I know, and that's what we're here about. We're trying to help people make better choices, better decisions, because these are tragedies that are totally preventable, and so they impact our lives emotionally and everything else. So we would like to see what we can do to partner with the state of Hawaii, and what can we do to raise awareness about this issue. And we're adamant that we want to stamp this thing out so that we can avoid those types of tragedies in the future.
Well, thank you for being on our show, because a lot of people are watching, and this is one way, right, is to bring awareness to this issue. Again, do not drink and drive. Do not drive under the influence of any kind of drugs. Get a designated driver. And there's so many services out there like taxi and whatever. There's really no excuse.
Exactly. Yeah, they're all preventable. There's no excuse.
All right, Greg. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.